Hey everyone, today I'm gonna show you this amazing creation I made, and it is called Pokémon Shogi. This is a very fun board game that I made a little while ago, and I really like watching Pokemon, and this is the reason here why I made this. And I'm also really like playing Shogi, which is also known as Japanese chess. I get the feeling, what if I could put together those two, meaning it is still Japanese chess, but it is in Pokemon theme. And the funny tagline here says, "Let's catch a Pikachu." And it's a full set, and it comes with 3 different size boards. Here we have a 3x4 board for beginners, the 5x6 board for intermediate, and the 9x9 board expert. And that's the same as the original. So I just illustrated this with a nice, beautiful landscape in the background. So without further ado, let's open the box, shall we? As you can see, inside the box, it's packed with 3 different size boards as well as individual pieces that act whatever pieces. Let's start with the 3x4. It's this one. So it's a landscape that is in daytime. It's oriented in a portrait form. And here I'll set up the pieces. Here you have a Pikachu, which is acting as the king. So it starts right here in the middle on the back row. Your opponent also has a Pikachu. Next, you have a Squirtle that is acting like a rook. Squirtle starts on the right hand, and your opponent also has a Squirtle, also on his right hand. Here we have a Charmander that is acting like a bishop. Charmander starts on the left side. Your opponent also has a Charmander, starting on his left side too. And finally, you have Rattatas that are pawns, smallest creatures in the game, starts in front. And even your opponent has a Rattata too, starts here. So the game starts like this. There's 2 ways of winning actually. First, you could either checkmate your opponent's Pikachu. So I'll show you the basic example. Force capture that Pikachu. Or second way of winning is to get your Pikachu to reach the last row of the game where he could not be captured, and you win too. Very interesting, right? Otherwise, if your opponent actually happens to successfully do that, you lose. So you have to be very careful with that. And just like in Shogi, every time you capture a piece, let's say Rattata's checking me, I go ahead and capture with my Pikachu, and I put the Rattata I capture on the right side so that I've captured it. And one time when it's my turn, I can drop a Rattata anywhere on a vacant square, like this. And also, by the way, when Rattata reaches the end of the board, which is indicated with a landscape aligning with a grid, Rattata gets to upgrade, and this is upgrading into Raticate. Raticate is equivalent to Gold General. It moves 1 space in any direction except diagonally backwards. Same as the Gold General, right? Okay, so that's about it for the 3x4. Now I'm going to show you the 5x6 board, intermediate. So here we are, that's the 5x6 board. You notice that the landscape is a little different, right? But actually, the truth is the landscape is still the same. It's actually the same landscape as the 3x4 one, except it is at a sunset. The colors changed to look like it is at a sunset. So here's the setup for the pieces. Again, Pikachu as the king are set up in the middle on every back rows. And here we have the new piece. This is a Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto is actually equivalent to a Gold General, moving one space in any direction except diagonally backwards. It is equal to Eradicate that I showed you earlier, right? But this one's an unpromoted version. And Pidgeottos start on both sides of Pikachu. Another new piece is a Spearow, and it's equivalent to a Silver General, moving one space in any diagonal direction or one space forward. And they start on, and all four of them start on all four corners of the board. And finally, Rattatas, once again, they start in front, right? Just like pawns. But this time all 6 of the Rattatas start on the 6 center squares. And the game begins like that. However, you don't have a second way of winning, which is obviously getting your Pikachu on the last row. That's not there on the 5x6 board. It's just simply force capture your opponent's Pikachu, that's all. And just like promotion, when a Rattata reaches this area into the sky area, they have an option to promote. Again, into Eradicate, move like a Gold General or Pidgeotto. But the difference is, when you decide not to promote on this row, instead you move one more time to the last row, well, promotion is mandatory, or let's say upgrade is compulsory, because since it will have no future move. But Spearow, on the other hand, either it enters, it can promote or it doesn't. Even though if it reaches the last row, it still has an option to promote because it still can go backwards diagonally, right? And even when they move out of the promotion zone, they can still have an option to promote as well. Isn't that amazing? And you could see Spearow upgraded into Fearow, same move as Pidgeotto or Gold General. And by the way, promotion zones for player 1 from land team is in the sky area. Player 2 with a sky team, promotion zone is on land, while the middle section is in the water area. Okay, so that's it for the 5x6 board. Now I'm going to show you finally the 9x9 board, full size. And it's this one. Here we go, 9x9. And yet it is the same landscape, but now it is at night time. And here we go with the initial setup. If you're playing the 9x9, this time you need Pikachu with the crown on his head. And just like Shogi, they place in the middle on the back rank. Pidgeottos will always start right next to Pikachu on both sides. Then Spearows that are the Silver Generals on the outside. The new piece is a Vulpix, which is equivalent to knights, and they place right here outside of Spearows. And yet another new piece is Bulbasaur that are equivalent to lances, and they're the pieces that can start on every 4 corners of the board. And now onto the second row. Here's a Charmander that acts as a bishop, but this time you have triangles instead of circles. So Charmander as a bishop placed on the second square from the left. Here we have Squirtle as a rook once again, but again you notice there are triangles instead of circles. And Squirtle's placed on the second square in from the right. Your opponent does the same. Just like 3x4, they don't mirror the effect from the first player, instead places on every same direction for both players. And finally on the third row in front, Rattatas as pawns are arranged across the third row. You need all 9 of them. Okay, here we are. This is how Pokémon Shogi starts. Does this setup remind you of something? Well, of course, it is like original Japanese chess. So I'll show you the comparison side by side. Here you go. What do you think of this comparison? So yeah, this is how it starts off. I'll pick up the original pieces of Shogi and the Pokemon pieces. Pikachu here, equivalent to kings. But unlike Shogi, both of the Pikachu pieces are the same to each other. Here we go. But you notice on original Shogi, one is a king and the other has an extra mark. Interesting. It's because in original Shogi, the opponent's king will have an extra mark differentiating from the first player. But in Pokemon Shogi, both Pikachu pieces are exactly the same. Next we have Pidgeotto, equivalent to Gold General. And these dots indicate the direction, one space on a direction they go. For instance, Pidgeotto goes one space any direction except diagonally backwards. Next, we got Spearow, equivalent to Silver Generals, moving one space in any diagonal direction or one space forward. Next, we have Vulpix, that are equivalent to Knights. And something funny here is a dot with a spring below. It means it moves one space forward and then one space diagonally forward. And with a spring below it, Vulpix as a knight is the only piece that can jump over other pieces in its path. So I'll show you a quick demonstration. So here, Vulpix wants to move into either of these spots. These pieces normally obstruct pieces in the way, right? But for Vulpix as a knight, it can always jump over other pieces in its path. And next, Bulbasaur that are lances. Bulbasaur has a triangle on top, which means it can move any number of spaces forward. A triangle here means moves any number of spaces on that direction. It can go as far as it likes, but of course not jumping over other pieces just like the knight does. Next, Charmander, that is equivalent to Bishop. it has these triangular shapes in four corners. It moves, like the bishop, it moves any number of free spaces in any diagonal direction. And also, we have Squirtle as the rook. It also has triangles, but it's located on the up, down, left, and right spots. And like the rook, it can move any number of free spaces forwards, backwards, left, or right. And Rattata's as the pawn. It has a dot on top of its head, which means it moves only one space forward, like the pawn. To decide which player goes first, just toss a coin or pick a player to go first, then turns alternate. And I'll show you their promoted values or their upgraded forms from Pokémon Shogi. So here we have Firo, as I showed you earlier, from 5x6. Firo is a promoted Silver General. It moves just like Pidgeotto or Gold General, right? Here we have Ninetales that is upgraded from Vulpix as the promoted Knight. It also moves like Pidgeotto or Gold General, so flips over when promote. Here we have Venusaur as the promoted Lance. It also moves like a Gold General once again. And finally, Raticate, as shown earlier, as the promoted Pawn or Token. Once again moves the same as the Gold General or Pidgeotto. So here we have the four pieces that can be upgraded into. Four of these move the same as Pidgeotto, moving one space in any direction except diagonally backwards. Now I'm going to show you the upgraded forms from the strong pieces. Alright, here we have Charmander upgrading into Charizard, acting as Dragon Horse or promoted Bishop. It still has the same move as the Bishop, right? Because it has these arrows on four corners. Moves any number of free spaces diagonally, or one space forward, backwards, left, or right. So it's like the move of the King as well. And last of all, Squirtle upgrading into Blastoise as the Dragon King. It moves any number of free spaces forward, backwards, left, or right, or one space in any diagonal direction. It still has the move as the Rook, plus the move of the King. So you can see these arrows on the north, south, east, and west spots, and circles on the four corners. And just like Shogi, Pikachu is the king and Pidgeotto does not promote. If you flip over, it's nothing. And here behind the Pikachu piece, I have my signature here so that the audience will know it's made by me. On the other Pikachu piece, if you flip over, that's the Pokemon logo here. So, Pidgeottos and Pikachus does not upgrade like Kings and Gold Generals from Shogi. Okay, so that's pretty much sums up for my whole creation of Pokémon Shogi. I find this really fun to make this and play with it. I hope you like it. Thank you for watching.